Damn, son, where'd you find this?
People don't be offended by the truth. They be offended because you called out the truth. Simple as that. They don't want to hear any other narrative that makes them look bad.
One thing I can't stand at this big grown age is somebody who act like cause and effect does not exist. Like, yes, your actions caused this outcome. Yes, what you did lit the match. Like, why are you surprised and playing victim?
Guys, Chico, they never lie.
That's how you know somebody doesn't respect you. They listen to reply, not to be understood. They cut you off. They minimize what actually matters to you. They laugh at your boundaries, and then they call you sensitive when you try to hold the line. They show up late. They cancel last minute, forget the things you've told them, because in their world, your time, your energy, even your voice aren't a priority. They're just an option. You see, there are two kinds of people. Those who adjust when they realize they've actually hurt you, and those who expect you to adjust so they don't have to change. You don't need to be disrespected loudly to be disrespected deeply. Sometimes you'll see it. It's just in their tone, in their patterns, in the silence after you're known. Respect isn't what they say when they're watching. It's how they act when they think you'll tolerate it.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Happy Tuesday again. Part 2. We back, we live. Glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. Thank you all for being here this evening. Appreciate you. Shout outs to my poets, writers, content creators, producers, dancers, painters. Salutes to the crew in the building. Much love to you. Without you, there is no me. There is no Assembly of Excellence. This conversation doesn't happen. This evening doesn't happen. And salutes to the audience. Appreciate you all for taking time out of your day to hang with us. I got Zay in the building. I got Coach in the building. We got some things to cover here. I got a clip. All right, Sydney, I see you. I got a clip that I'm gonna play for y'all, man. Grab you something to drink, get comfortable. Leave your thoughts and your comments over there in the comment section. We're pretty interactive. I'm gonna bring everybody up. Then I'm gonna bring the big screen up, and we're gonna get into the stroll. So let's go here. Coach, Zay, Sid, what up? What up? What up?
Yo, everybody looking good. What's up? What's up?
Hey everyone. Have a good day.
Mom.
Absolutely. How's you and your team, Sid? Y'all good?
Good. Yeah, have the baby watching.
Absolutely. Zay, what's up, baby? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Man, feeling good, feeling fine.
Good. Well, look, man. Let's go ahead and jump into it, man. I'm gonna bring this up on the big screen. Initial thoughts, and we just gonna take it from there. This dude, man, he disclaimer. Let me put this out here real quick. The thoughts and opinions and views do not directly tie or connect to anybody. I don't want nobody to feel any type of way. If you are uncomfortable with this type of content or this type of discussion, please, you are more than welcome to exit. That being said, let me go ahead and run this clip real quick.
Alicia Ashley with ABC 7 with a truly horrifying and a straight out of a crime show story that crosses through DC as well as Maryland. What we learned from court records is that Kayvon Edwards was accused of rape. And now what he did once he was arrested and being held at the PG County Jail is that he then called two women believed to be his girlfriends, one the mother of his child, and told them to stop her from showing up to the court hearing. What those two women did, one pretended to be a hairdresser, another pretended to be the girl's friend, even started working at her job. They then lured her to this home, and that is when they attacked her, kidnapped her, and stabbed her as well as her friend who showed up to the home. Now, this story spreads across multiple stops across the city. I'm going to show you where each of these attacks happened, because once they tied them up, duct taped their eyes and their mouths in a basement inside of this home, they then put both of the women inside a car that was parked here and then took off. We are following the tracks of the two female suspects, Sierra Lee and Robin Bynum. After Lee and Bynum duct taped the two women in the basement, stabbed them multiple times, they threw the two women in a car and drove them around DC, and they ended up here. We are at the corner intersection of Branch Avenue and Place in Anacostia. We know the car was left or rather abandoned somewhere in this area. Now, the two victims that were inside the car, they were still duct taped and locked in that car. They said once the two suspects got outside of the car, they said they untaped each other, got out of the vehicle, ran down the street, and that is how they were able to get help. They stopped someone who called 911, and that is when investigators unraveled this horrifying story. The two victims were able to flag down help in this area near Minnesota Avenue and G Street. What we learned is that once investigators found them, they were also able to find the vehicle. When they found the vehicle, they found blood and duct tape inside the car. In addition to that, we were able to see transcriptions from calls from Edwards and Lee as well as Bynum, where they were discussing this plan, also talking about how they wanted to make sure that the victim did not, or rather was not able to make it to court the next day. And Lee and Bynum confirmed with him that they dropped the two victims off somewhere and that they would not be showing up for court.
Initial thoughts.
Can't really trust anyone these days. They said that was her boyfriend and his friends, I guess, that did that. People can be so disgustingly sick these days. I imagine that this was their way of trying to dodge the crimes, the accountability for the crimes that they already committed. But that's such an extreme length to go. I mean, I can understand to a small degree what desperation does to people, but that's such a horrific way to treat people. It's a tragedy for the woman, her friend, their families, everyone that had to go through that. And I'm shocked that it was multiple people involved in this whole situation and that they were okay with participating in a crime this terrible.
Zay, let me ask you a question, bro. Let's say this is a family member of yours. You find out that this happens to you, maybe a friend of yours or associate of yours. You find out that this is your life right now. How do you respond to that? How do you react to that?
Honestly, I would be pretty heated in the moment, but I try to find a positive in the situation. How can we turn the situation around so we can ensure this never happens again?
I'm with you. I'm with you. Uh, Coach, how you feel seeing that for yourself? I mean, I already like I have my thoughts. I just want everybody to get their balls off real quick initially. What's going through your head watching that?
I mean, it's alarming, right? One, that the individual that was incarcerated, and it seems that he was able to orchestrate those things while being incarcerated, and the people that was committed to the relationship that they had with him and executing those things and putting themselves in harm's way. But also, it was so well orchestrated that they were able to be let out a few blocks away and get out while being duct taped. So it's kind of like almost a script to a TV series happening in real time. So it questions as to what's going on in the youth in DC. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so and somebody said it's strange for the mindset of what they have, but what will make you think to try to put these things into play in the execution? So I'm interested to see where you're going with this, and I'm going to pay close attention, formulate my ideas, and answer accordingly. Take it away.
So first thing that I'm thinking about is how dangerous it is for women to be out here in the public, right? Carol, I got you. These conversations about men being more dangerous than animals, I stand by that's a ridiculous claim, but I do understand the severity and the urgency and the outcry when women do speak about abuse and about looking over their shoulder. Stories like this reinforce why they feel the way they feel. You can't dismiss it. I just want to put that out the way first and foremost. My apologies on behalf of men, because not all of us think or operate like that, period.
Absolutely.
Right? So we got to address this issue with men preying on women that's just living their life. The other thing that I want to acknowledge is what type of stuff did you go through as a woman to attach yourself to a man like this? What happened to you in your upbringing where you would risk your freedom, your child's freedom, that you would sacrifice your time and everything to not only protect him, but also bring harm to another woman, the same woman that speaks about being in fear of those type of criminals, the same woman who sticks up and stands up for you when criticisms come to you about all of these different things that we discuss on a regular basis. Those are my two initial thoughts for this. I'm gonna bring Carol up, and anybody who wants to tap in afterwards, you're more than free.
So while you're waiting on somebody to step up, here's some things I'll say. Right, I'm not speaking on behalf of women. I'm speaking of a person that have a lot of women within my family, and some of the things that growing up in Chicago, right, women often navigate treacherous landscapes. It's hanging with men who face dangers, whether it's being on the street, whether it's being in the workplace, or whether it's being in a particular environment, and also by serving in the military. Sometimes women are put in environments where they might not feel 100% comfortable. And I think it's important, because we kind of spoke on a previous pod, that women, they speak up about certain things as to things, for enlightenment, wanting to feel better about certain things. But I think it's important for the men to kind of help them understand that it's also important to speak about the things that you don't feel safe about. And providing that safe space, you're giving them an opportunity to, let's just say, role play, because we do that in a lot of workplaces. We role play. Some people can call it cosplay, whatever the case may be. But you're providing them an opportunity in a safe space to maybe extend, let's say, a sense of masculinity, to find a sense of security and speak confident, maybe at home, because at work they might not feel as confident speaking up, if that makes any sense. So I think if we practice some of these things, and it also takes the other person or other participants to be able to speak up and say that they don't necessarily feel comfortable about speaking up in certain places, and then you just provide that opportunity to demonstrate, hey, if you don't feel comfortable, this is how you can speak up. If you don't feel comfortable in certain situations, this is how you can do it. Because we damn sure provide opportunities for them to speak up in other ways. But I think it's important for them to teach them how to speak up in ways that benefits themselves as well. But it also you have to tap into that resource of having the hard conversation, and it has to be one that had on both sides. A lot of times people go through traumas, trials, and tribulations where they didn't want to speak up. They may feel ashamed about it. But grabbing a family member or somebody that you feel comfortable with and possibly going over those things, maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4 times, because it's all about patterns, and building that confidence so that maybe perhaps, and I'm just using it loosely, in a workspace or a place that you might not feel typically comfortable because of, say, the disadvantages of saying it's more men in the environment, than women. It's teaching them how to speak up. And I think that might be the thing as well, is they might not necessarily know how to speak up, but they may refer to somebody else to speak up in lieu of them. I'm gonna go get my husband. I'm gonna go get my brother. And if you teach them how to get assertive, how to be dominant in certain instances, then I think that might be a launch pad to going into the right direction. Not necessarily it's a fix all, but I think it can get you going in the right trajectory. What you think, Sid? Hit that mic.
I was going to say, I was just out of curiosity, I was looking up the stats, and approximately 46% of women who are killed by their partner, whether it's a former partner or current partner. And it's with men, that statistic is much lower. It's definitely an indication of where women are vulnerable, in the sense that it's oftentimes the people that they trust in their lives. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know what the murder statistics are generally, but I'm fairly certain a higher percentage of murders are committed by people that you know compared to people that you don't know. A lot of people are terrified of the random acts of violence, that they're just going to be out on the street and somebody's randomly going to like kidnap them or shoot them. But the majority of people who are subjected to crimes are it's done by people that they've known, someone that's either in their life or was formerly in their life. And it's tragic, and I think it's kind of an indicator of why it could happen, because you trust them. And if you trust somebody, if you have a good relationship with somebody, or you think you have a good relationship with somebody, you're more likely to ignore the signs, because you'll kind of have that mentality of like, oh, it won't happen to me. They wouldn't do that to me. I know them. They could never do such a thing. And that type of thinking leaves you vulnerable to the signs that lead up to those types of acts. So it's a really tragic situation that most of the people in our lives that we love the most can sometimes be the most dangerous for us.
Absolutely, well said.
Let me ask you a question, Zay, and I guess this is for everybody. Do you think that the way things are set up on social media and media in general, do you think that with all of the false allegations and all of the cases where we see so much of, well, they lied on this person was innocent, and this person did this, have we gotten to a point where it's boy cry wolf? Like,
For sure. I honestly think that because, I've seen so many cases where I just scroll on Instagram, and you see someone has passed, and you could scroll through the comments to see what happened, and don't nobody know the full story, if anything. And like, it's frustrating because you genuinely want to know what happened with this person, like how this person passed, but everyone's spreading lies, everyone's miscommunicating. That's the problem nowadays. Don't nobody know how to communicate, and we we take a loss on that, because without proper communication, how are we going to truly know what's best for us or what's best for the other person that you come across in your life? You need to know these things, not only to protect yourself, but protect others too. You can be harmful if you don't, know the proper facts, especially, with people you come across or jobs that you encounter, opportunities, it all comes together. It all comes together. If you don't have that communication, the whole foundation is out of whack.
And well said, brother. I agree with you. Like you said, the facts, the car facts, the people facts, the girl facts, the house facts, whatever it is, you got to get the facts, right? And then, like you said, the most important thing in anything is building a solid foundation. And if you don't have that foundation, the infrastructure is sure to crumble. So, and if it doesn't crumble, you're going to spend a lot of money on rehabs, rehabilitation, and things that's preventing you from moving forward, more or less one step forward, two steps back. So, just like you said, communication is key. And absolutely.
I think we're at a place, for me personally, I take everything with a grain of salt. I understand that there are people who lie and make stuff up, but even with that, you still have to do your due diligence, right? You have to do the Carfax. You got to check everything out before you just jump in the middle of a fire that you're not aware of, if there's even a burning house at all. At this point, everything has to be taken serious. Nothing should be taken as a joke, even though they rage bait, they troll. You have folks that's seeking attention, even though we know that there is just a lot of people out here that's operating under malicious intent. You still have to take things like it is life or death in certain situations. Especially when you know a person who is depressed, but they always laugh and smile. You don't know they're going through it. You have to be on, like, you can't just sit here and say, oh, well, I didn't know, but did you really try? Did you
Check on the strong friends.
Right. Do we, like, if we are we really trying to be a community? Are we really trying to have these open, honest forums? I mean, people get scorned and burnt all the time. That does not mean that those experiences should disqualify other people from their truth. Just because this happened does not mean that it doesn't actually go down in some other areas. And Custom alluded to it, and I want to reiterate, I really stand by this. There are monsters next door to you. There are monsters inside your facilities where you work at. You sit next to people, and you wouldn't even believe that these are the same people that would be responsible for the crimes that we see. So it's like, are we just blind, or are we just pretending like we don't see what's happening because we so stuck in survival mode?
Hey, that's a great point, right? So I think what you have to realize, man, and I think what more people with the awakening is starting to happen is a lot of us are starting to realize we were raised in survival mode. And the problem with being raised in survival mode is there's no other mode because you're sitting around waiting on the next thing to happen. You're waiting on the next ball to drop. You're waiting on the next thing to initiate. The next thing is to get you triggered to get to the next point. And so much so that people don't really realize that it's a good thing to sit down and relax. Take an opportunity, enjoy the sunset, enjoy the view. Look at the flowers, relax. Pause for a second and let your mind just take a chance to relax. And I think once you realize that and you think about the monks, right? They spend so much time meditating, being at peace, trying to come at one. You look at so many other, again, we kind of talked about this, on an earlier pod, was other cultures, they more look at the process of manifestation and just relaxing and being at peace. Versus we look at it, if we sitting down and we're not constantly moving, then we're lazy. Then we're not as productive as the next person next to us. So I think it might be a time to recalibrate, rethink things, and just adjust it. We might have gotten it wrong. We might be a society of ultimate professionals, millionaires, billionaires, people that are doing all these things, but the actual goal in life is just to sit down, relax, and just enjoy the moment.
What do you think one of the main issues here is? Because I'm still stuck on the fact that, well, all right, that guy had the access that he did from behind bars. One. Two, we need to know how to identify that person, that archetype of person moving forward. Three, how does someone look at that as a candidate for procreation? But not only that, you find yourself in a position where they can tell you, I need you to go and assassinate somebody for me so they don't go to court and testify and put me behind bars, even though I did something horribly wrong. I need you to go do this job for me. How do you, as a woman, specific here and in general, because this is not just this case, but there's a number of instances where there are people who are willing to take the downfall or the bid for somebody, even though
take one for the team.
Right. Basically, how do we get to that point? Like,
are you seriously asking that question?
Well, some people.
Are you shitting me?
I know.
What are you talking about, man? That's what our culture is based and built on. You know what I mean? Taking one for the team. I'm not saying that be a total hypocrite right now, right? You know, to sit here and say that I don't know how it is, but there's the street methodology. We'll just start making up some stuff, and then whether the people follow along, they don't. Hit us in the Discord. We can go further into detail. A street methodology of how we're supposed to be as a culture, right? As far as we kind of touched on it, no snitching. You know what I mean? Making sure we take care of somebody, we hold them down. If somebody's taking care of you, there's the codes, quote unquote, family codes. We talked about this earlier. Core values, family values. It's some type of values on where you're raised and where you come from and what you believe in. So it goes down to who's successful in an environment and what they've seen as their versions of success, right? It's not necessarily, I got 4 or 5 degrees, I'm an engineer, I'm in Texas, I work in the oil field, that's what you see as success. You come from a certain, the Midwest, cornfields, whatever, East Coast, whatever it is that, family lineage or whatever you guys are investing in, is just whatever your version of success is, where you come from. And that's kind of what people pass on to each other. And I think that's where it stops and where it ends. Because what we talked about earlier was, I mentioned things about traveling. I mentioned things about experience, going abroad. These type of things, that's what kind of adds value to your life, because you see outside of your neighborhood. But if you don't see outside of your neighborhood and you see the people within your neighborhood going within and without of a certain set system, you're going to find a tie to those individuals who's going in and out, and how we can kind of take care of each other. The left hand comes together with the right hand to wash the face. So you're going to find ways to, whether it's skirt the system or it's ways to come together to circumvent the system, but you're going to come together in your small community, in your net, for those things to come together. So, you know what I mean? So Sid or Zay, y'all provide a different perspective, because we all come from different points, the continental United States. So I think we all have different points of view.
The element that I was going to bring in is loyalty. There's been a lot of research that's been done on loyalty and the level of willingness a person has to do something, regardless of whether it's illegal or not, based on how well they know them. And it's almost a one-to-one type of relationship, where the stronger relationship you have, the more willing you are to do something. And this, the best example I can think of is parents. Parents would be willing to kill for their children. They would be willing to go to the ends of the earth to do something for their child. But this still also applies to friendship type relationships. In a Cornell research study, they found that individuals who are even moderately closely tied, if they have some form of what they call an indirect tie, even if the person was accused of wrongdoing, had obviously committed a crime, the person the people that knew that individual would still be willing to support that person and to even go as far as to commit crimes. Granted, these were all hypothetical, like theoretical type situations within the test parameters. But they also did apply this to the understanding of crime and the crime connections from people that they know to the person that actually perpetrated the crime. And they found that if they knew somebody, they would be more willing and more able to commit a crime that they ordinarily wouldn't have done on their own. Another really good example that they point out within this research is what we see in fraternities and sororities. When you have groups of very intense connection, very intense loyalties, they are going to be more likely to work together, and even if they commit a crime, they're going to stand together. And even if some of them disagree with what's happening, and as I said, wouldn't ordinarily commit crimes like that, because they're in a group setting, because there's that intense tie of loyalty, they're far more likely to go along with that criminal behavior in support of the people around them. And so I think this could be an example of what we're seeing, where the people that committed this crime for their friend that was already in jail or prison, wherever they were, they had a sense of loyalty for this person and were willing to prove that friendship, relationship, whatever. I suspect at least one of them had a romantic relationship, because typically that intensifies that sense of loyalty and the willingness to overlook morals. But they had this sense of loyalty and the desire to prove themselves to that person. So I imagine that was a huge component in this whole situation, that it's not just them hating her too, but them having that interest in completing this act for that other person that they already knew.
Zay, how you feeling?
I completely agree with both of you. And there's so many factors that go into this. Like, it's all circumstantial. Like, being able to pick out who's right for you and who's not, it's not an easy task. And like, let's see, there are times where systemic issues are in play as well. Sometimes someone might have gone farther in the system than someone else, and they see that, this person, maybe he's doing something right. Maybe I can learn from this person, and you kind of treat that person like a mentor, and it could be a good risk or it could be a negative risk, because sometimes you could play those games and it works out in your favor, but sometimes, like 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna find the right mentor, because there's always gonna be someone that claims to be a mentor but not really. They just want something. They want that relationship because it's beneficial. So they don't appreciate the love that's given. It's all take, but it's not. It's there should be a balance. There should be a give and there should be a take. So there's so many factors that come to play here, is all I'm saying.
You can't have loyalty to somebody and not even have loyalty to yourself first. That's crazy. Like, accountability. You chasing after somebody, but you're in your pursuit of them, they don't even have their life in order, and you're looking at the results of their productivity as something that is worth merit. It really isn't. That's very, very dangerous. That's very dangerous. And the truth is, when you see it, you can tell that these people are probably broken, or there's something missing in them, because there's no way in the world, me looking at this situation, I'm willing to risk my freedom for you. I put it like this: you can't care about me if you're basically telling me to risk my life to protect you for a crime that you committed. So what you trying to tell me? You love me more if I kill this person for you? That's going to make you select me and choose me over that person? So I have to do the extremes in order for you to stay here? Or I have to bring the moon to you for you to feel like I'm worthy of what? Something is wrong with that. Really wrong with that.
Yeah, but do you really feel like that? Or if you take the emotion out of it and you think about other people that go through things that are in more dire situations than you are, that they possibly could go through something like that and believe it. Because sometimes that's all you have. And that's how manipulation comes into play. That's how I'm able to get you to do things that I want. It's not because you got the best life that's going for you. You're going through some shit. And I can relate. And I can bring you in, and I can tell you how some of those things may benefit you and they may not benefit you, but if nobody else got you, I got you. So if somebody who's going through something, they need a shoulder, and I can offer them something, you don't think it's possible for that to happen?
I think that's usually the situation. And if I like, just to be transparent, yeah, I've been in that position before. Nothing to this extreme, but I've been there where I needed something and you offered it. It wasn't the best. I probably knew it wasn't, but guess what? I'm lacking something in me, and I'm desperate. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. I need to be edified somehow. You're providing me something, and it might not be what I needed to be, but it's something, and I will absolutely partake of it. I have partook of it. So I agree completely with that, and I think that is a lot of what this is too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, with great power comes great responsibility. Is we see those things that are out there, but what are we doing to kind of fix those problems? And there's a lot of things. Don't get me wrong. We're not trying to fix the world in 90 minutes, but there's a lot of things that go on that is out there, and people may constantly make a decision to choose to go that direction. Maybe because they don't necessarily have the support to make that conscious decision. Get that thing off your shoulder. But you don't necessarily have the things to make a conscious decision. But I think again, it just comes down to an education piece, right? So one, a support system, because a lot of people sometimes what they're looking for is support, and a lot of times they don't know how to reach out for it. Pride, ego, you call it what you want to. They made songs about it. Beyonce, Kanye got a big ego. Whatever you want to do. If the ego gets in the way, and then just knowing that you have other people to look out for, because it's more than just these two individuals and the people that we're talking about in the video, because this type of thing happens to more than just them. This is just something that has to be publicized right now. We kind of cover it. But to the folks that's out there that's kind of watching the video and they may be going through some things, it's important to know that there's resources out there that you can reach out to. And I think that's the bigger problem, right? Is not necessarily knowing that there's a resource that you can reach out to. And knowing that you have that, it might not be the fix all, but it at least provides another option. And if option is not the word that you're looking for and you need something more powerful, it provides a contingency. And the contingency is you can go left versus going right. And again, it just becomes an education piece. Go ahead, Sid. You're cracking up over there.
I think she's doing her Angela Lansbury right now. She be on the move with that keyboard. I told her before, I wish I could type as fast as she did, because I sure as hell will be on it.
It's all good. Zay, get in where you fit in, baby.
I'm just in a space because our son just broke our downstairs TV. Gotta love 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds, but yeah, this whole the thing that gets me is how violent and like violating they were to her, because if I remember correctly, they duct tape or they taped her eyes shut and they did, or mouth shut or something. I know they like taped something shut, and they also like, I don't know, they went above and beyond what a traditional murder usually is. Like, one of the most common methods that people use to take somebody's life is either poisoning or shooting, because it kind of removes your it's not as personal, and so it's easier for somebody to kind of wrestle with the idea because they don't have to participate actively. I remember reading about this because they're discussing in Britain, they banned conceal and carry entirely, and because of that, they've had a rapid increase in the number of stabbings. But they were talking about how there's a different psychology when it comes to stabbing versus shootings and other types of crimes where you can kind of step away and not be part of it, because it kind of allows you to block this type of stuff out of your mind, and kind of mentally not take part in the crime that you're committing. Whereas something that's more intimate, such as strangling or stabbing, where you have to be up close and personal and put in like actual personal physical effort to do so, is a lot more taxing on the mind, and the mind and body is more likely to even balk and reject the idea of doing this to another person, because innately the human body does not want to commit harm on another person. Like, this is why a lot of people feel squeamish and uncomfortable seeing blood or seeing injuries or smelling blood and smelling the scent of like things happening to a human body, because in our nature, in our cells, and in our whole biology, we don't like the idea of watching people suffer, and we don't, our body will literally reject the idea of being around somebody that is passing away. And that's where trauma a lot of the time comes from, is that the body rejecting this memory, this feeling that they had to be exposed to, whether you were the perpetrator or just the witness. So it really speaks to, going kind of back to what I had said earlier, like it speaks to that intense sense of loyalty, and that whatever was going through their mind, they must have had something wrong with their like either personality disorder or some sort of like mental issue, for them to be more comfortable with that type of act. as well. At least that's what kind of my my intuition would say. But again, the whole social aspect of this, it does make a little bit more sense that they were able to overcome that sense of discomfort, because that's what peer pressure does to you. When you're in a situation where you are being pushed by outsiders to do something, you're more likely to ignore those sensations that you have internally, because everyone else around you is telling you, no, just do it, just do it. So I wonder, in a more clinical sense, what was going through their minds, and what they in their heads are telling themselves that is their motivation. I also, this situation also makes me think of another case that I heard a little bit ago, of a domestic violence death, where the girlfriend or ex-girlfriend had been trying to navigate this breakup that she had with a partner that was physically abusive towards her. And her parents, her friends, all told her, do not go see him. Do not go there alone. Do not go meet him. And he had wanted to meet up, and he swore, like, oh yeah, it'll be fine, I just want to talk about a couple things. And he ended up like kidnapping and killing her. But it's that sense of, in the victim's unfortunate case, did they have those signs that they missed? What, like, what, like, was this something that was out of the blue, which obviously probably wasn't, given that he was in prison. But I wonder if this was something that they had been warned about, if this was something that their family had been noticing, or like if the friends of this person had already been showing signs of this type of behavior during the whole breakup process or whatnot. Because oftentimes our family members, our friends, they're the ones that notice the things that we aren't detecting ourselves, because we're kind of wrapped up in that emotional aspect. So I wonder how much, if there were signs really that these other people were likely to become perpetrators themselves, if they had an unnatural loyalty even before this incident, or if it was triggered by the fact that he ended up in prison. Because I could also see it being a sense, like, I could see it as an original loyalty where they were already close to him, already friends with him. They had been engaged in conversations and like, we're going to get back. And he just happened to end up in jail before they could do anything. But I could also see it as a situation where they almost blamed her for it. Like, you put our friend in prison. You did this to her, did this to him. So we have to get back for him. So I do wonder how strongly of a role he played in relation to them. Like, if he was actively planning this with them, or if this was a situation where they were doing this to appease him and to cheer. I don't even know why you do that, but if there was rationale behind them, or if they were just blindly following his orders.
I got a question. With this type of violence, with men on women attacking them, do you think this is a environment problem where it happens in specific areas where the economic status is not as flourishing as in other areas, or do you think this is just abroad?
I'll say that it's twofold. It's economical, and it's also just based on your environment. There are different styles and sets of crimes. i.e., in certain areas you're gonna have B&Es, breaking and entries. In certain areas, DC, you guys got those big parks, Potomac Park, I think, where everybody goes running and does all those different things. And then you may have random attackings and people jumping out and doing certain things. I think the crime level itself, like the person in the chat said, it's definitely a mental problem, but I think it's geographical. Some areas might not be as violent as others, but there's still crimes and things of the same mentality happening. It just may be less progressive in certain areas, but because I'm not going to say everybody, but people are suffering everywhere. And depending on what exactly those people are suffering and the traumas that they went through is how they're going to express their versions of trauma. They may lash out. They may speak to certain people. They may go to bars. Maybe they were raised by people that may slip things in certain people's drinks. I think certain crimes are particular to the area that you're in. Hence they call them white collar crimes and different things of that nature. So they're more violent in the neighborhoods that we come from because of more of the pent up frustrations and aggressions and things that people are going through, or the lack of ways to express themselves. So they may tend to hold more things in, and it's also less prevalent to invite them to be more of a man or an adult, as they say, to problem solve and work through those issues, and also to seek help. So certain areas, crimes, people may go to jail for coke or drugs, and they may go to rehabilitation centers. Some people may suffer in an alcoholic environment and it's more physical and abusive. So they may go to different treatments. And within the different treatments, different processes and different outcomes come. And on the outside of those experiences is what we don't talk about enough. The rehabilitation process. Everybody has a 12-step program. You identify the problem, you make amends. What's the rehabilitation process like? And so everybody might go through different issues or traumas, but the rehabilitation process and the reintegration process back into society should be the same. And I think that's where the issues that we lack. And I can speak from it, personal experience. It's just from traveling to Afghanistan, Iraq, and all these different places, and the reintegration process back into society isn't the same. So that can be looked at as another form of trauma, and then coming back and reintegrating into the society and just figuring out how to handle and cope. No different from Max B getting home from prison for serving 15 years, but he's getting welcomed home with diamonds and jewelry. And then Mike Epps goes online and say, anybody that comes home from prison shouldn't be celebrated, right? So again, it just goes back to perspectives and different forms of rehabilitation and how it's perceived from the people that's going through everyday society.
I also think is like someone said in the comments. I also think it's a spiritual problem as well. Like the lack of faith that people have in themselves is very detrimental to their soul, not only to their soul but to their mental as well. Like I've had personal experiences where I can be so content, but other people they see that, but they envy that because they can't do that themselves. And that's why that's a big problem, because for me personally, I have my faith, and God always, I don't know, I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't know anyone's
Take your time, brother. Do you think?
But for my faith, it takes a whole lot of inner work and a lot of people are not willing to do that inner work, so they resort to violence because it's easier. It's easier to be bad or evil, as you would say, than it is to be good.
Bang,
You know what I mean?
I'm glad you said that. Um, we don't really know this, but we open a lot of portals. We give permission to a lot of practices that infiltrate the vessel of that particular host. And through these thoughts and these images and this lust and this desire, by you allowing consent, your vessel becomes a tool for destruction. I did a video. Um, a woman breaks this down a little more concise than I did, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But between the mental aspect, the spiritual aspect, and the integration aspect, these things create this type of man or woman that we see wreaking havoc in our neighborhoods. To be honest with you, I don't believe that is in one specific area. Look at the government. Look at everything that they try to cover up. The Epstein files. All of these historical events that's either documented and been hidden from us, or you go to Hollywood or you go to the music industry and you have folks that tell you, look, I practice sorcery. There's different things that speak to the testimonies that there is a darker side to this that we just don't want to accept or acknowledge. Now, I'm not telling nobody to believe in what I say. You can just bypass that if you want. That's cool. I'm offering my own perspective, just like Zay and the gentleman Vinny. Men who prey on women, they absolutely have something wrong with them, and it's beyond what I think we can provide help for or assistance in. There are things that's happened to them throughout their lifetime that got them the way they are. Just like a person who doesn't have any confidence in themselves, so they rely on someone else's energy to get them through life. They leech off of your personality. They leech off of your finances. They leech off of your success because they can't navigate their own for whatever reason. These dudes who's out here stalking and doing all that weirdo stuff, yeah, it's very scary. It's very real. I personally never thought that it was a laughing matter. When a woman gets online and says that she feels this way about this and that, I don't make a joke about it. I only have a issue when you are using these talking points so for the purpose of manipulating a conversation, or you like, you don't even you know that what you're saying is not real, but for argument's sake and for the sake of distracting or changing the course of the discussion, you bring in other things that have nothing to do with. I don't like that part because it's real. This stuff really happens to these women out here, and you're making light of it. So yeah, my 2 cents. I yield the mic.
Hey, I agree with you. I think everybody had some amazing points. And I think at the end of the day, it's just like you said, you, you just have to take into consideration the things that you put out into the universe. You know, how you say it, the way you say it, and words have meaning, they have power. And I just, having good intentions and making sure that you put the actions into it, not just the words. And you got to look out for each other. And that's why it goes back to accountability. You looking out for yourself, and then having a strong person to look out for you as well, and you looking out for them. You can't do it by yourself, and that's what it boils down to. And what happens is a lot of times you try to do things by yourself, and if you don't have clarity or a good sense of what's going on, you can easily be manipulated by somebody else who may be a little bit more educated than you, may have a little bit more experience than you, and their intentions might not necessarily be the best for you. So be aware of your surroundings, be aware of who you surround yourself with, and take those things in consideration that not everybody has your best interest at hand. And, I think if you take that approach, then that's nothing else but at least leading you along the path to some type of success for you looking out for yourself and at least analyzing the people that you consider to be friends and associates, because they might not have the best interest for you. And the sooner you identify with that, the better you are. And you can continue to do things that benefits you, in totality.
I also want to put it out there too, just from a victim standpoint. A lot of the cases that I have heard before, a lot of the time they didn't get out of the situation because they didn't want to make it seem like they were exaggerating or making a big deal out of nothing. And they often ignored their intuition because they didn't want to seem like they were just kind of making things up and have people like think that they're being dramatic or something like that. But I can tell you right now, if you're in a relationship and there are red flags, there's anything that makes you question the integrity of that person, their willingness to be there for you in the capacity that a partner or friend or even parent should be, you have the responsibility to care for yourself. Even if you're wrong, it is better to be safe than sorry. It is better to pull yourself out of a situation that could be potentially harmful than to withstand it for the fear of people looking at you funny just because you don't want to embarrass yourself. It is worth saving your life to pay attention to those signals. Because again, even if you're wrong, maybe nothing happens, but you never know. And the consequences of being wrong in those types of situations is something you can't come back from. And so I just encourage anybody who's in that situation, who just feels off about their relationship, who feels like these people might not be good for them, listen to that. Your life is worth way more than appeasing people and making people happy in the fear of like letting people down. So, and also, if you are in situations where you are actively being mistreated, there are domestic hotlines that you can turn to. There are services that you can get help through, where they'll help you get out of those situations and pair you up with services with law enforcement to help you get the services that you need to get out of that situation. So do not be afraid to ask for help. It is worth your life to ask for help.
Hey Sid, what's that hotline and that number?
The national hotline is, where'd it go? I just had it up here. 1-800, oh my God, I'm sorry, 799-7233. And that is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And they will be able to connect you with domestic violence shelters, which will give you a chance to get away from this person. And at those shelters, they have services for mental health, they have services for your children, and they have services for you to get in contact with the authorities to do more about that situation.
Thanks to you and your team.
Hey Zay, let me. All right, since we in the final stretch of the show, what would you suggest to women who are in a situation where they feel the need to have to prove they're valuable to a person that is clearly toxic? They're a threat and a danger to them and anyone that's around them. What would you say to the women who are walking these streets who are just going about their business and they don't understand that they have to be with their head on a swivel?
Short and sweet. Prove your value to yourself first. You have to be the one to treat yourself with respect, with concern, and with care. So if you're in a situation where you think that your life is in danger, ignore everyone else. Take care of yourself first and get yourself into a situation where you are genuinely safe. Again, it's not worth trying to baby relationships because you want to try and make it work out, or you don't want to offend anyone, or whatever reasoning you might have. Get out of those situations, even if they're not physical. I know a lot of women who stay in emotionally manipulative situations because, oh, well, it's not like they're beating me. But mental damage can do just as much to you as physical damage. So if you're ever being subjected to this type of behavior, as I said, whether it's a partner, a friend, a roommate, even a parent or a relative, trust yourself first, give yourself grace, and give yourself the value, or allow yourself to see your own value enough to seek that help that you need.
Shout outs to Michelle Campbell. Appreciate you for hanging out with us. Salutes. Until you love yourself, you'll never know what it's like to be truly free. You can't prevent what's happening outside, but you can limit the possibilities of it. If you have to go to the limit of harming another person for the approval of another, that's not your person. If they put you in a space where you're questioning your reality, that's not your person. There are more men that are willing to protect women than there are men who prey on women. As hard as that is to believe, this is not a scare tactic. This is not to say you need to be on fight or flight mode. It's just to bring some type of awareness. Everybody got to work on something. The last thing you want is to be easily manipulated by another human being. in any shape, form, or fashion, whether or not they are PhDs or they just have the gift of gab. You got to know that you know what you know. Everybody is supposed to be on even playing field in this walk. And if you're not being treated that way, that is a problem. You do not deserve to be stalked. You do not deserve to be hunted down, having people staring out your windows, and nobody should have to live like that. And my thoughts and prayers go out to those two women who went through what they went through. I'm glad they got away. I'm glad they got help. I'm disappointed in the men in this generation. I'm proud to know that we still have people out here that are willing to help and assist in situations like this, because that could have gone tragically. We need more community. We need more fellowship. We need more accountability. We need more of these type of discussions with social awareness, and stop getting online trying to scare the hell out of people. If you're going to talk about these things, make sure that you're being unbiased and you're being fair about it. I even have to check myself sometimes when I say stuff.
And don't make it up either.
Yeah. Don't make this a man or men hate women thing or whatever. This is what we all have a common enemy here. Period. And it's not who you think it is. If anybody else got something to say, I'll turn it over to y'all before we close out.
Yo, I'll jump in and say this, and then Zay, you can have it. It's 2025, and currently we're talking about men on women, but we just have to keep it, fluid, and just talk about period as far as for significant others out there that's just going through things, because it's obviously it's not just men on women, it's women on men, there's men on men, or whatever the situation may be. You got to keep in mind the human factor, take in consideration, and just treating people right. Treat people like you want to be treated. And I mean, it really is as simple as that. But the problem is we don't know how we want to be treated these days. And that's open for another discussion, because like we talked about it, the lack of love, the lack of appreciation that we have as a people. So we tend to project, and we hurt people. So if you have an issue out there, find somebody to talk to. Get a professional. If you don't want to talk to a psychiatrist, contact a coach, contact me, an accountability partner. You need to find somebody to talk to, because at the end of the day, it's those suppressed feelings of how you felt and been mistreated. And then now you're looking to project those and mistreat other people. So it's a bigger issue out there, and we need to establish some lines of communication. So pick up the phone, call somebody. Like Sid said, you can call that hotline. You can contact me at realalive.org. But the thing is you need to flush out those issues, and you need to talk to somebody. And that's the reality of it. There's a lot of people who don't talk to people, and they project, and they tend to outwardly treat people the way they've been treated. So it's bigger than that. And then we're just trying to handle it at the lowest levels before you go out there and affect and harm somebody, and also put yourself in a position to alter the rest of your life and somebody else's life. Peace.
What I gotta say is it goes hand in hand with what Coach said, but yeah, like communication, it's. I just want to reiterate that communication is strong. Like I can't stress that enough, man. Like there's so many experiences or problems that can be avoided with simple communication, and I struggle with this myself, so I know it's not easy. You know, it's not easy to be vulnerable to people. I get that, but how else are you going to know what's good for you if you don't communicate? So yes, communicate always.
The number right there is for anybody who want to jot it down. Great show tonight. Just salute to everybody up here. Coach, Sid, Zay. Thank y'all for gracing the platform with your wisdom. I'm always learning and picking up from everybody. Shout outs to the people in the building who tapped in. Custom, Michelle, Vinny. There was another gentleman who pulled up in here earlier. I appreciate you for hanging out with us. Tomorrow, we spinning the block. If I don't get a chance to chop it up with y'all, as I say, enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy your Wednesday. Thanksgiving, we off. We're not doing nothing on Thanksgiving, but enjoy your Wednesday. Drive safe. Hug your loved ones a little tighter. Keep your head on the swivel. Don't let the job stress you out. And we up out of here. Do me a solid before y'all go. Appreciate you.
Prayers for anyone going in through that situation too.
Yes. We up out of here, man. Enjoy y'all night.
Mantra, slave songs, slave ship, rip skin, made me rip bones. But no matter how close I hide, my ancestors speak. They tell me the tide isn't front on us like we're weak. I haven't been getting sleep, longing to sing until I surpass peak. Until they think we are equal, please. All I want is peace. My ancestors